Hi guys, in this video we'll look at how to factor trinomials of the form ax squared plus bx plus c where a is neither 1 nor 0. So in the trinomial I've gotten written below, we have 2x squared plus 17x plus 21. Now we're going to look at how to factor this using guess and check. So we've already seen that if we FOIL the product of two binomials, in a lot of cases it's going to result to a trinomial. So we're going to try to factor this trinomial into two binomials. So the first thing that we need to do is look at, we know that when we expand these two binomials, the first term, 2x squared, is going to come from multiplying this term and this term. So we'll go ahead and fill in these two terms with two terms that are going to multiply to 2x squared. So let's try 2x and x, and there's really no other option other than 2x squared and 1, which wouldn't result in a trinomial of this form. So next we'll find two numbers that multiply to positive 21. We know that the two last terms need to multiply to positive 21 when we use FOIL. So two numbers that multiply to positive 21 are 3 and 7. 3 and 7 are the prime factors of 21. So here we've got two different options. We could put 7 here and 3 here, or 7 here and 3 here. So we'll start by guessing and just trying 2x plus 7 times x plus 3. So now we can see that the last term, positive 21, is correct because the last term comes from multiplying 7 times positive 3. So now we need to check that the middle term is correct. The middle term comes from multiplying 7 times x and adding to that 2x times 3. 7 times x is 7x. 2x times 3 is 6x. 7x plus 6x is 13x, which doesn't match our middle term. So our middle term, when we place the 7 here and the 3 here, is not large enough. But you might notice something, that when if I were to place the 7 such that it would be multiplied by 2x rather than just x, we're going to get a middle term that's bigger. So I'll try putting 7 here and 3 here, and now that I've paired the 7 with 2x, I'm going to get a bigger middle term. So 2x times 7 is 14x, 3 times x is positive 3x, and 14x plus 3x is 17x. So I factored this correctly because this matches the middle term. In the examples below, we're told to factor completely. So in question number 1, I have negative 6x squared plus 23x minus 21. Now, anytime that you've got a negative in front of the quadratic term, it's always good to a good practice to factor out, to common factor negative 1 so that you have a positive coefficient beside the quadratic term. So let's go ahead and we'll do that first. And if we common factor out negative 1, we get negative 6x squared minus 23x plus 21. So now we can try to employ some kind of factoring strategy. Here I've got a trinomial of the form written above, so I'm just going to try to factor this into two binomials. Now I know that the first term is going to come from the product of multiplying this term and this term. So I need two numbers that multiply to 6x squared, and one potential option is 3x and 2x. I could have put 6x here and x here, and that's a valid guess as well. But just for simplicity's sake, we'll start with 3x and 2x. Next, I need two numbers that are going to multiply to the last term, or the constant term, which is positive 21. And the factors of positive 21 are 7 and 3. Those are the two prime factors, and I could have 1 and 21 as well. So another thing to note is that the middle term is negative here. So what that means is that when I FOIL this, I have to have a middle term that's negative, and my constant term has to be positive when I expand this. So the only way that that's possible is if both of these values we have both these terms here are negative terms. So let's try to plug in 7 and 3, and then we'll check to see if that matches our middle term. So let's start by putting 7 here and 3 here. Well, now we have our last term, our constant term, is going to be correct because we're multiplying negative 3 times negative 7, which is going to be positive 21. But if we check the middle term, our middle term comes from multiplying negative 3 times 2x and adding to that 3x times negative 7. 3x times negative 7 is negative 21x, minus 6x is going to give us minus 27x. So that doesn't match our middle term, so this can't be correct. Another thing to notice that if I place the negative 3 here, 3x minus 3 has a common factor. So since it has a common factor, this can't possibly be correct, because if it was correct, then my original trinomial would have had a common factor. So I shouldn't have even guessed that negative 3 goes there in the first place. So let's try swapping these factors up. Let's try 3x minus 7 and 2x minus 3. So now we'll get a middle term that's a little bit smaller because I've paired negative 3 with 3x, and I've paired negative 7 with 2x. So negative 7 times 2x is minus 14x. 3x times negative 3 is minus 9x. Negative 14x minus 9x is minus 23x, which matches the middle term. So I've guessed correctly, and the factors are minus 3x minus 7 times 2x minus 3. Now, when you get good at this, and you get a lot faster at factoring using guess and check, you won't even need to write the factors down underneath. You can kind of just, it almost becomes a little bit intuitive, and you can kind of just fill this in and kind of have a little bit of foresight as to where each of these numbers need to go. So in our last example, we have 6x squared minus 14x minus 12y squared. So to make your life a little bit easier, it's good to note that 6, negative 14, and negative 12, all of these coefficients here, are all divisible by 2. So I'm always going to start by looking to see if the trinomial that I'm trying to factor has any common factors. So let's common factor out 2. If we do that, we get 2 times 3x squared minus 7xy minus 6y squared. So now we have a trinomial that has no common factors, and we'll try to factor this by using guess and check. So we'll write the product of two binomials, and then we'll try to just fill in the different parts of these two binomials to match the trinomial that we've got above. So in this spot and this spot, we need two numbers two terms that are going to multiply to 3x squared. So let's try 3x and x, and that's really again our only option, because 3x squared and 1 wouldn't have given us a trinomial of this form. Next, we need a number or two terms here and here that are going to multiply to negative 6y squared. So let's try minus 2y and positive 3y. Now I knew not to try positive 3y in this binomial because that would have meant that there would have been a common factor of 3. And if 3 was a common factor of this binomial, it would have been a common factor of our original trinomial. So I knew right away not to bother trying that. So lastly, we need to check that this is correct by checking the middle term. And the middle term comes from multiplying negative 2y times x, which is negative 2xy, and adding to that 3x times positive 3y, which is positive 3xy. That is not correct. Positive 9xy. So negative 2xy plus 9xy is 7xy, positive 7xy. That does not match our middle term because our middle term is negative 7xy, whereas this term this product would give us a middle term that's 7xy. So we can fix this just by swapping up these signs and having 3x plus 2y and x minus 3y. Well, now the middle term would be positive 2xy minus 9xy, which would give us a middle term of negative 7xy. So now that we've found a middle term, or found a product that matches our middle term, we've factored this correctly, and the factors are 2 times 3x plus 2y times x minus 3y. That concludes this video, and we'll see you in the next lesson.